Hi guys, hope you're okay. This is Daniel. So, this is a slightly more serious topic as I want to touch briefly on the tragic passing of George Floyd, who lost his life this week at the hands of a police officer in Minnesota in the United States. And for those of you who don't know, he basically was restrained, and the police officer had his knee against his neck for a long period of time. I think it lasted up to approximately 8 minutes and 46 seconds, but then I think there are videos that apparently have a very longer duration. I personally haven't watched the video, and the reason why I haven't watched it is because I feel that there are so many situations where a lot of black people in particular have lost their lives to police brutality. I don't think it's anything new. I think it's definitely something that's going to continue to reoccur, which is a very sad truth, but that's just the way I see it. And the reason why I say that is because I was always told that the best apology is change behaviour. Yet, if we were living in a system where there's a constant pattern of behaviour and there's a recycling of a particular event at any given time, then it only goes to show that there is no real change or intention to change on behalf of these people who are completely subjugating these people to the most horrific of situations and circumstances. And the reason why it's very difficult, you know, because again, it seemingly is the black demographic and the black people who are being targeted like this. And subsequently, there's a lot of people in that community who feel very outraged. Um, I once upon a time was one of those people. I used to see a lot of the injustices and get very, very riled up, very upset. But I think since I've had some type of spiritual awakening, my perception on lots of world events have definitely changed. Not only my concept on life and death, believing that it is a very cyclical thing and that, you know, you can't have one without the other because that is just inevitable. That doesn't mean we should have a really negative, poor quality of life or an undignified death, which is what unfortunately occurred for Mr. Floyd. But what I mean is, when it comes to karmic retribution and things of an esoteric nature, I believe that everything goes in cycles, and I think that you can't have an event such as this without a repercussion. So hence now we've got the situation where the people are looting and there's other things going on in America. There's a nationwide outcry about this whole thing, and excuse me, that completely makes sense to me why that would occur. But one of the things that prompted me to make this video is because I was watching a video by someone who I follow, a channel on YouTube by the name of Spiritual Soul, and he really summarized this event so succinctly, and he analyzed it in such a way that just made so much sense because his message was focused primarily on the use of the news and mainstream media to manipulate people and to almost try and create a public sense of outcry and make us feel a little bit helpless by feeling that we are insignificant and not necessarily having any worth. And it's just, there's always an event that seems to kind of throw us off and make us feel powerless. This is just another case of that occurring, but equally at the same time it doesn't stop the reality of the situation occurring, in the sense that his family are going through the loss of their relative, and that's regardless of whether I am going from a very conspiratorial position or not, that doesn't change the fact that those people are still going through those emotions. So I hope that they can get through the situation, and their lives are changed forever. And it's just, the thing about being desensitized to this is that it's very easy to really forget about that. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people are feeling very tense about this too, because it just seems to be one too many of these instances that occurs, yet nothing really changes. And I'm at the stage now where I think, well, if we have a precedential pattern of behaviour where nothing seems to change, and we do seem to be going through this cycle of a particular demographic being targeted continuously, then at what stage do we really say that this is all orchestrated and that this isn't actually unintentional, it's actually an intentional thing? Because to me, I've never really known of a situation like this, or thinking a situation like this could occur without there being some type of repercussion. People are naturally bound to feel this way, but it's very funny because as Spiritual Soul was saying, there are so many things that are not being covered that we perceive are going on behind the scenes, whether you believe in secret societies or not, or you feel that there are other alleged acts that are going on in relation to child trafficking and all sorts. It's very funny how these other events seem to take precedent and to really, really distract us from what we're supposed to be looking at. And I don't really even know what that is anymore, because there are so many occurrences that are going on and so many perceived injustices that I think it almost goes back to that whole notion of having to be blissfully ignorant to actually not go insane and lose our mind in the process. Because, as I've said, it's very easy to become outraged by these things, but if that's what people want us to do and they want us to get into a very low vibrational state where we are in a state of fear and perpetual anger, like, what does that do to the human psyche? What does that do to our bodies? And what does that do for our relationships with each other? For me, I am very conscious of the idea that, we're going to go into a lot of civil unrest over a lot of things. And I don't know whether this is, again, an event that's being orchestrated to try and bring that forth. But using my discernment, I wouldn't put it past people to try and orchestrate this to divide people internally. It's almost like a divisive method to make us focus on something that is so shifting us from, unifying and coming together in a way where we can actually really, really look at the situation and think, well, what is actually going on? Who is looking out for our best interests? What is this whole thing about? I mean, I don't have the answers, but like I say, all I can do is just try and offer some words, really, to say, if anyone is feeling angry about this, your anger is completely justified. But then sometimes you have to wonder, to what end is the anger going to do us anything if we can't really make and implement positive changes for the long term? And that's why I think we have to be as educated as we can be when it comes to our rights as individuals, our awareness of what is going on behind the scenes. And there are so many conspiracies that I could even talk about. I mean, even the notion that the looting that's supposed to be happening at the moment, there are videos of showing officers smashing windows and pretending it's the citizens of the city that are actually doing it. So to me, I don't know whether we're meant to see that information. I don't know whether that was literally just caught out by someone, in question. But I think the biggest thing I'm trying to say is I just don't like being manipulated. I don't like being controlled. I don't like people trying to tell me how to think and feel. And in some ways, I often feel that it would just be so much easier if I was just in the Amazon rainforest somewhere with no access to a television or any mainstream media, and just not have that constant barragement of disaster porn that is designed to make us feel very, very low. But this is the reality of life, and this is what we're in, and this is the game we're playing. So I feel that as a coping mechanism, all I can say to anybody who is feeling that sense of outrage again is to just try and focus and shift that focus from the external and look inward and say, what is it about my life that I can take charge of? Because I don't think that anyone out there, whether they are elected leaders or any other person who is perceivably in power, I don't know if they have the power to actually give us that satisfaction of living a fully actualized life where we can actually take control and take charge of things. Because if we're looking for an external savior, I think we're going to be really looking for a long time. And that sounds very harsh. It probably sounds very ominous, but when you realize that you have complete control over your responses and your mental faculties, then that essentially does start to give you that sense of power and control back. But yeah, all I want to say is, just try to keep the focus on peace. And I know that sounds like a very, very, again, flippant statement, but I mean, what's the alternative? So they're my quick thoughts on this. Sorry it was a bit of a tangent. This is, as I say, a very sensitive subject, and it's not something that I really want to even cover, but out of respect to George, I think it was something that had to be said. But yeah, to all who are affected by this, I just keep you in my thoughts and prayers, and yeah, just pray for the best and look after yourselves. All right, take care.